welcome to the CEO or General Group Conversation. Anthony, thanks for putting in the first question. You want to verbalize it?
So it looks like Anthony is not on the call. So his question is, which...
Welcome to the
Oh, hold on.
CEO
I need to mute my tab.
General Group.
Okay, so his question is, which other company apart from GitLab excites you right now and why?
Yeah, so many exciting companies. Most of the smart people in the world are not yet working for GitLab. I follow SpaceX weekly. I think it's really cool to see iteration in hardware. SN10 just crashed, and within days they have SN11 walking out to the launch pad. Just the speed with which they're able to iterate is really fast. Like, we know iteration is hard. We have it easy. We do it in software. They do it in hardware. It's really amazing. And then I'm very excited about Swift Solar. That's why I'm an investor. I think the potential of solar energy to become much cheaper, if the cells become much cheaper, is really cool. And I saw a company yesterday, Almanac. They're kind of saying, hey, take what GitLab does with the handbook, but put it in an easier user interface. So I thought that was really cool.
May I ask Sid a follow-up question?
Sure.
So this makes me curious as to, by the way, this is Mo. This makes me curious as to, where do you get your news from? Like, how do you curate a feed for yourself?
Yeah, Hacker News and Twitter. So Hacker News homepage, I don't use anything special. And then my Twitter feed, I think you can see on Twitter who I follow. So that's how I get my news.
Cool, thank you.
Any other public questions?
I'm not able to add to the doc right now. It's really slow to load, but I had a question about iteration. I was curious if you could give an example of something that you have been iterating on recently. I'm curious about how iteration works at your level.
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to try to answer that in a couple of different ways. I think VP of incubation engineering is really interesting. I was frustrated, I guess, that our product team wasn't investing in like the 7-year out projects. And I talked with an SVP of product at a big company. He's like, don't you want the product to focus on your customers? And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what we told them. Talk more with customers. And he's like, well, they're doing that. They're doing what you asked them to do. So it's unreasonable to have to ask for two things. If you want to do those long-term bets, and that's commonly under CTO. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That's how you're a CTO. So I'm like, hey, Scott, hey, Eric Johnson, you should probably get a CTO for the long-term stuff. Okay, makes sense. And then Eric was like, well, I kind of have spare capacity, although I'm leading the largest group at GitLab, but I got extra bandwidth. How about I create a role reporting to me that does that? I'm like, that's great, because if we do that, we're going to have single engineer groups, and they're going to run into problems with the security team, with the quality team, with the design team, with the infrastructure team as they roll out their stuff. So I'd much rather have that all go through you than me being busy with that. So that's great. Thanks for offering. And then we were writing the job description for this VP of new markets. So it went from CTO to VP of new markets. And then Eric said, I did some Googling. Actually found out incubation engineering is a thing. Oh, never heard of it, but that sounds pretty similar to what we're doing. So that was kind of a fun way to iterate. Another example, I guess, is server runtime. GitHub has a feature called Code Spaces. It's really cool. We're not making the same thing at GitLab, but we have a partner, Gitpod, that offers kind of the same functionality. So we're now working with Marcel van Embeden to make the Gitpod integration even easier to find, because the iteration is now from your perspective, it's from the user perspective. And if we just make the Gitpod integration more, the user is served and we can learn from that.
Thanks. Good examples.
Thanks for asking. Anybody else, feel free to speak up, since Google is having trouble with the 100+ people in this call.
Hey Sid, this is Madeline Hennessy. I was just typing in the chat window and figured I'd speak up. I'm curious, what's one thing you're hoping to get out of the leadership coffee chats with the URG groups?
Yeah, how to be a better ally. I had my first one yesterday, and I think I made an offer that was taken in consideration to help the person advance their career. So kind of knowing the situation, knowing the context, knowing what the goals of the person are, and then thinking about how you can help.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
I think Greg has the next question. Greg Myers.
Hello. Yeah, I was just wondering, Sid, are there any use cases or ideas you have for how we could do a better job of dog fooding our product, dog food in GitLab?
Oh, yes, very much. I think we're doing a much better job tracking it. So there's a dog fooding label. And if you look at that in our issue tracker, you'll find examples. Things that come to mind are like product analytics. I think product analytics should be something that every significant application has. So all of our customers need it. And it's no longer okay to send user data to all kinds of third parties. So that should go to their self-hosted GitLab server in many instances. So here's the basics of that in GitLab. I think we're afraid of what that heavy event stream will do to the database. So I think we should ship GitLab with ClickHouse so that that stream can go into an analytics database and those worries are alleviated. And I think ClickHouse is great, and I'm looking to invest in anything to do with ClickHouse. And then another example, you're in support. We have a service desk in GitLab, and it's not good enough for support to use. But I asked Eric, hey, Eric Johnson, can we start tracking what percentage of support requests are handled through our own service desk? Because it's going to be a multi-year process to get 100% in GitLab. I think we're already using it for DMCA requests or something like that. What's the next bite we can take? And in the end, we're going to end up with all kinds of great dashboards in GitLab and all kinds of functionality that we now use a third party for.
Mark, Chris, I think you have the next one.
Thanks, Sherry. Hey, Sid, so where do you see the future of Meltano and GitLab as two solutions that data teams can use today? Because as a salesperson, I'm starting to get asked a lot more by data teams if GitLab is a great use case for them or how they might use it, and then similar for Meltano.
Yeah, that's a great question. The view I have today, and I'm saying so people can add to this and can argue with it and I can learn. The view I have today is any significant application in the future is going to have both data elements and procedural elements to it. And in the middle of that are the models, the ML AI models. So any application is going to generate data feeds. It's going to have people making software changes, and it's going to kind of revise its models over time and deploy those. GitLab is eating at that problem from the GitLab side. In the middle are ML AI models. So what the proposal that used to be GitLab data, I renamed a couple of days ago after seeing a great conversation of a few people who recorded it to YouTube in our company. And it's now called GitLab Model Ops or Model Operations, because GitLab is on the code side of things. Kind of first we have to crack that problem of like versioning and deploying models. And I think GitLab with CI and CD can be really good at that. Then Meltano is starting to eat at that problem from the other side, from the data side. And it's first going to do ELT, basically extraction and loading, EL. The T is done by DBT. So it's kind of solving the EL problem, and then hopefully it will go downstream from that. And at some point, it's also probably going to add models. And then if GitLab wants, it can use the core components, the core EL components of Meltano, namely the Singer protocol, which is an open source basis. I've wondered for a long time what the future of Meltano was. Is it going to be integrated in GitLab, the product? Is it going to stay separate product, same company? Or is it going to be separate product, different company? And the longer time progressed, the more I think it's going to be a standalone product for a very long time, maybe indefinitely. And it has a very different segment of the market it's catering to at the current time. So I'm not seeing the synergy right now between the two companies.
Okay, thanks, Sid. I appreciate it.
Thanks for asking. And love to hear more about that use case, but you're the person where you might not want to do that on a public stream, considering who your customers are.
Yep, roger that.
Cool.
Awesome. So there's a question in chat from Lucas, and it says, what are your thoughts on the future of the CEO Shadow program? We have seen a number of Shadow AMAs, but what are your thoughts on how it has gone? And will this be its final form, or have you thought more on how it could evolve further?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Lucas. Super timely, because on Monday, I proposed to the e-group, like, hey, we have too few signups for the Shadow program. Kind of many people who wanted to do the program in GitLab had that opportunity, and we're seeing that we don't have enough demand anymore. And I said, hey, I've heard of other CEOs that they would really love the opportunity to participate. And McBride and Todd were like, well, if we're going to do that, we have better ideas. Namely, we have potential customers that might be super interested in it. And we have partners that might be very interested in it. That sounds like a bigger value add for GitLab, or a more direct value add to GitLab. So we're going to prioritize those, and we're going to open it up for people who are not team members.
Okay, should we move to the not public questions and stop this live stream?